All right. Good morning, everybody. My apologies. This is John speaking, by the way. My apologies, as I said there was not going to be an agenda, and I changed my mind, and there's kind of a semi-agenda over here on the left side of my screen here. I didn't make one up because I thought we were mainly going to be talking about Evergreen, which we will talk about a little later on here. But we do have some other things to talk about too. I've got over here the minutes from October, and I will allow folks to take a look through them real quick, and then we will have a motion and second to approve them. But go ahead and read through them a little bit. Okay, do we have any discussion, or shall we go ahead and approve the minutes? Does anybody have a motion to approve?
This is Dia. I'd make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
So moved. Do we have a second?
I see that Anne has
seconded. I am still getting used to looking at my chat screen, folks. My apologies. Okay, so we have a motion and it's been seconded. I guess all of the, instead of having everybody do ayes, do we have anybody with nays? Go ahead and speak or type in the chat. Hearing nothing, the minutes are approved. And just for reference, if anybody is not sure where these minutes are stored on the Cataloging Committee website, they are up here, or on the SAGE website, Cataloging Committee, and that's where they find them. All right, so let's go ahead and get started this morning talking about read-alongs. You'll see here I've got the read-along training part 1 video, which will be included in the minutes right here. And we're going to have a part 2 training sometime soon, as I understand it. I do see either Anna or Beth. Do you want to talk a little bit about read-alongs?
Sure, I'll go ahead and talk about it. This is Anna. So the recording of that first training that was last month is on SAGE, as well as a PDF of the slides themselves. So you could also take a look at the slides if you weren't able to attend the training. And then the next one, part 2, will be this coming Thursday. I don't know what is that the 6th?
Yes.
And is that 1 o'clock, Beth?
Yeah, that's what I was planning on doing it at the same time, and I'll be sending out connection information following this meeting.
And Beth, why don't you hold off with that, the connection information? I will send you, so I have some cheat sheets
Okay.
to help with the part 2 of the training. One of the things that we'll be doing in part 2 is looking at specifically at 008s and 006s. And that gets kind of complicated. I wanted to have us, we'll kind of talk about that. But also actually do some hands-on work. So we'll go and look at some records and work on modifying and adding 006s. So it'll be helpful to have some cheat sheets as we go through that, just because obviously if we're doing an online training, sometimes it's hard to pull up all the screens that you need at one time. So if you go ahead and print out the cheat sheets, that'll make it a lot easier for us to go through this stuff. And as most of you probably know, the 006s and 008s are very complicated. So having some of the codes and knowing where, like, the different character positions can be helpful. So those are the cheat sheets that I'm going to send out to you. And for those of you who weren't able to attend that first part, you know, you can still attend the second part. I do recommend going and taking a look at the part 1 training. And for anyone who, even if you don't work on read-alongs, if you're just interested in 006s and 008s, it might be worth sitting in on part 2.
Anna, show me where I might find that over here. Am I going to resources?
I think it's
right here. Here's the slides I see.
Yeah, and then right, so there are the excuse me, there are the slides. And Beth, where did the PDF go? Because I think that wasn't in the same place as the right, sorry, the
right
video is there and the
Okay.
PDF is what John just clicked on.
Yes. You found it.
Okay, good. All righty. Lot of hard work is being done on that, so thank you both for your efforts there. Read-alongs. Sometimes we encounter materials that isn't quite clear what it is, so somebody gets stuck with figuring out what it is, and Anna's been working on that very diligently, so thank you. Speaking of working hard, and this once again involves Anna, actually, we have been working for quite some time, as you all know, to try and codify some of our policies and guidelines regarding how we catalog series in Sage. And we were hoping to have that by this meeting, but we have some loose ends that we're trying to tie up before we get that out to all of you, which hopefully will happen in the next few weeks or so. And so I just wanted to give Beth an opportunity to bring up a point or two regarding display issues in series.
Okay. So in looking at series, we want to improve the visibility of series, and so we've been looking at additional ways to change the display so that all the series are displaying, as well as the series, the subfield P, that often is appearing on some maybe newer series, but anyway, we want to make sure that we're displaying the subfield P. So I'm looking at the series display and trying to make some changes there that aren't in place yet, but will be soon.
And you'll see more about this once all of this documentation comes out, and hopefully not only will our policies be a little bit more clear so we can be more consistent how we catalog series, but also we'll see some things change in the display so that not only for us but also for patrons will be able to access their series information a little bit easier. All of their series information too.
And
Yes,
just
go ahead.
so that people understand, the reason with that subfield P is that sometimes we have series. If the subfield P isn't displayed, sometimes we can have confusion between series that have split and that have like a second part to the title. So it helps to have a little bit more information so it's not confusing. Otherwise, we get like it looks like there's multiple numbering for one particular series.
Yes, that's right. Thanks for the clarification. Okay. So an issue was raised regarding the 505 field, and sometimes we have the expanded version of 505 where all of our contents are cataloged with subfield T as opposed to just in one big table of contents note. And so Beth is also working on indexing, or actually it's creating an index, is it? Help me out here, Beth.
Sure, John. There was a concern that the 505T was not being indexed after the upgrade. And I did verify that the index still exists on our system. So what I now have to do is see whether when the database was updated, whether that index did not get created correctly, or whether we just have certain records that aren't indexing correctly. So I guess if you're seeing an issue with this, let me know. I had one report, and what I'm going to have to do is look at some specific records and make sure that they still come up in a title search. And if not, I may have to do some work on getting that index rebuilt. But the index definition is still in our system. So I don't know whether it's an isolated case. So if anybody has any information to share, that would be helpful.
And just before we move on, let me pause for a moment, and we have a couple of unidentified folks, and I just want to make sure that for the minutes we record who all is here. We do. If you're calling in, do we have two callers or just one caller? If you're calling in, I'm not sure who you are. And we have someone else that's logged in as staff. I'm not sure who staff is. So at some point during the meeting here, we should probably find out who you folks are so we know that you are here at the meeting. Alrighty, so I don't know if you all noticed, but we updated Evergreen. Sorry, that's a joke. I'm a cataloger, so I have a very dry sense of humor. And so what I wanted to do before we start talking about web client stuff, let's just talk about the update in general. And I wanted to give John and or Beth the opportunity to just kind of talk about some issues they've encountered, new things they need us to know about, really kind of whatever they want to cover regarding the update. So, go!
Well, we have... Do you want me to go ahead and talk about the mobile bug?
Sure.
Okay, so with 3.1, there is a bug that mobile devices don't allow you to log in properly. So it's fixed in 3.2, and I don't know if we have a workaround yet, because, I mean, the workaround is to upgrade, which obviously we're not going to do right away.
It's also available in 3.1.8, which isn't too far away from where we are. So we might actually update to that version sooner than we do 3.2 because those in-between upgrades tend to be less intimidating. Now, John, that mobile bug, is that for staff that are trying to log in on their phone?
Yes.
To the, okay. So it's
Yeah.
not something most staff will be doing.
Right. It's only the only problem that it's presenting is that you cannot select a workstation, so you can't log in as a staff person when you go to
Okay.
the staff URL.
But
So-
patrons can still log in, okay.
Yeah, if you go to the other URL, everything logs in just fine.
Okay.
So
I felt like the upgrade went well. Obviously, it was longer than all of us wanted because it was not until that evening that we were able to get back on the system. One of the good things that I've seen out of this upgrade is we don't appear to be having the searching issues that we had prior to the upgrade, where we would get no results for our searches. So I think that is a really good positive takeaway from the upgrade.
Definitely.
There haven't been any big issues. We had some error messages come up, but we were able to resolve those. For the most part, there's some random Z39.50 errors that we've been getting, but it's not on every record we import, so we're trying to track that down. Please keep reporting issues that you come across. I think that we'll be able to track things down the more feedback we get, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So don't hesitate to contact us if you have a problem.
So a major component of this upgrade, of course, is the web client. And I'm sure we have varying degrees of folks who have experimented with the web client and those who are too apprehensive to try it, if I may put it that way. But I wanted to highlight some, in case you missed it, some of these resources that are available to you. First of all, the first one on here is Beth's blog post where she just talks about how you would go about setting up your workstation account in the web client. And once again, all of these will be in the minutes so that you'll be able to look at them and make use of them. As well as both of these North Texas training videos that are on YouTube. I'm trying to remember how long they are. I think they're only like 3 or 4 minutes apiece, if I recall correctly. So it doesn't take a whole lot of time to read through them and just get a familiarity so that you can just get up and running here in the web client. And today we didn't really want to do any training per se because there are going to be separate training sessions specifically devoted to individual questions that folks have. I don't know how to do this. How do I do this? And all of that stuff. But that being said, we did want to kind of open it up to folks to talk about their experiences, talk about things they have seen so far, things they haven't seen so far, so that when we do those trainings, we can have a good idea of kind of how to focus those trainings to individual catalogers' needs. So we're actually moving fairly much more quickly, actually, than I thought we would this morning. So we have quite a bit of time for folks to bring up individual issues, or if Beth and John also want to talk about bugs that they've encountered so far, in case people are worried about things, they will know that those exist. So,
I guess, John, I wanted to interject and say that we've got the read-along training this Thursday at 1, but what I'd like to do over the next several weeks is have a regular cataloging session time for working with the new web client in cataloging each Thursday. I guess the exception might be after Christmas, but anyway, for the next few weeks, having a session so that we could dedicate it to cataloging, and I wanted to know whether that was going to be adequate or whether we needed to have a couple sessions a week.
Beth, this is Dia, and I think part of it may just have to do with, people's normal flow of things, what they have. I think if you try to do too much all at once, it may be a little overwhelming for folks, depending on what their, work situation is at any moment. So maybe start with once a week, and then if we need to update that.
Okay. I was thinking once a week was sufficient. I just want to make sure I was thinking the way others were thinking. So let's plan on having the Thursday sessions. And I thought about doing another one this week, but I thought with the read-along training, we probably just need to wait till next week. But I'm happy to entertain questions. I know that John has been using the web client for a couple weeks, and maybe some others have as well since the upgrade. So they'll have input on what they've liked and new things to get used to. But the web client is the way of the future, and that's where all the improvements are going to be focused. So it's definitely a direction we want to head, but it's not a do or die right this minute thing. And so we want to give folks time to get familiar with it and also to make adjustments. There's things like in the web client, having to recreate your copy templates, which is something to be aware of. It's not a huge time-consuming task, but it's something you want to plan for. And that's just because the data is structured different in the code underneath. And it was one of those things where it forces us to create our copy templates again. So there'll be things like that we'll discuss in the trainings, but certainly if you have questions before then, feel free to send an email.
And not to get too far into this, but when you're talking about copy templates, let me just pull up an example here. Actually, I should have found one of ours. So if I go here. Because I think I know what you're talking about, and I did have to make some adjustments to my copy. One of the things I like here, well, actually the item, adding an item information has changed up here. And if I go over here to add copies, this probably looks a lot different to most of you than you're used to seeing. But if I go up here to copy templates, and I have mine here, Beth, are you saying, just for clarification, are you saying these won't be here when you create a new one, and you'll have to redo all of these? Is that what you're saying?
My understanding was, John, that we had to redo the copy templates. Did you not experience that when you are using the web client?
I did not.
Okay.
What I did experience, however, though, I did have to make some changes to all of them, because I'm trying to remember what fields were causing items to not be added. I have a feeling it was over here in statistical categories. There were some of these that were just not set at all in my previous template, and I had to actually change them to none to actually get them to work. But I did not have to redo all of them. I just had to change one or two things in all of them and resave them. That was my experience. That might not be yours.
Okay. Well, that's good to know, because in one of the videos that I watched, that was one of the things that they had indicated. But it might be a case-by-case basis depending on fields that were set or not set in the template itself.
Now, I do see import-export over here. Do folks have from the staff client ability to export their copy templates and then import them here? I'm not sure. Go ahead.
This is Anna. So none of my copy template. I think the names transferred, but all of the actual parameters of those templates did not transfer over. Nor could I actually do like recopy it and as an export file and then import it into the web client. So I'm having to redo all of mine over again. I mean, even if the names of the templates are there, it's still, right, having to go back to each one and update, make sure all of that information is correct.
So when you would hit apply here, you would not get any of these fields to be filled.
Right, they wouldn't be set. They wouldn't be set the way that I had originally set them.
So the names basically tell you which ones you had, but doesn't help beyond that, is what you're saying.
Right.
Okay.
So John, had you played with the web client in the previous version? Is that why maybe you had some here?
No. I started playing with the web client with this most recent upgrade. I am the type of person that if I continued to use the staff client, I would use it as a crutch. So I just took the hit and made the change and have had my productivity take a bit of a hit, but I've been trying to get used to it for the last couple of weeks. But
gotcha.
Has anybody else bit the bullet, dare I ask? I see a couple of people.
I have not. This is just because of the productivity. I'm so far behind from being in Oregon that
I get you.
I couldn't afford at that point.
Let me just point out one thing, because we're gonna get out early here, unless other folks have other issues they want to raise with the web client. But let me just show you one thing that will be, I mean, I haven't quite got used to it yet, but eventually will be quite the time saver for me. And that is the fact that, well, since I have my 1984 record up here, and let's say I have multiple copies of this that I want to send to branches, I have my volume edit information here. I have my item edit information down here. And so let's say I wanted to add 6 copies of this. And then I put my barcodes and I 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or my part information or whatever I wanted to do. And then I can go down here and edit them one at a time, so that I select just this item and I'm going to send it to Haynes, for example, and you know, whatever custom changes I want. Say this copy cost $15, and then I could go over here and store it, and then I can work on the next one, change that, work on the next one, save them all, and then when I save them all individually, I can then save and exit, and it will save all of my copies with their individual customizations, which is something I could not do in the last staff client. And so whenever I had multiple copies, I had to go back, create them all, and then go edit their item attributes individually. But I see over here in the chat, Mary says she's been using it a little bit too, as well as Lisa has. It is definitely different, especially in your cataloging module when you are. Let me get back to. Let's see. How do I get back to my bib record? You can see this is obviously quite a bit different here. You still have your flat text, of course, if some of you like working in your flat text easier here. But this gets a little getting used to, especially your keyboard manipulation. Those of you who have been used to using your arrow keys to move around, adding new fields with keyboard shortcuts. Some of those are a bit different, and that takes a little bit of getting used to. You can see now, you know how you used to right-click? I would right-click here, and then it would look into my authorities. That's what this guy is down here. And you can see this is a little bit different. Anyway, this is all stuff probably better reserved for training sessions, but just because we had a little bit of time here, I thought I would kind of show you all a little bit in it. Does anybody else have other positive things, negative things, frustrations, revelations, visions regarding Evergreen Update or the web client or anything else? Because that's pretty much all we have on our makeshift agenda here.
One thing, this is Anna again, and I'm assuming, Beth, that we don't have any resolution yet is with the importing of records and adding as a doing the mark batch edit. I know that I think a lot of libraries are importing from Z3950, but for those of us who are importing from OCLC Connect, that there's a problem with the mark batch edit. It's basically not doing it unless that has been resolved, Beth.
It hasn't been resolved yet. There is a bug open about it. And it hasn't worked, I guess, since, well, did you have it working in the previous version of Evergreen, Anna?
What do you mean the previous version?
Okay. There was a way to do it in the workstation. Sorry, the client version, the staff client version, is referred to like the Zool client, but it stopped working. I'm trying to think of as of what version, whether it was 2.6. Anyway, it's something that wasn't working in the original and hasn't been fixed in the current. You're right, I don't think very many people know about the feature, so we'd have to actually show them. And this is when we're bringing in records from OCLC, and we want to be able to add a field to all the records that we brought in through batch mode. You can put all of those batch records into a bucket. And then once they were in a bucket, the potential to add them to mark edit was there, but it's not. That crosswalk isn't working right now. There may be some workarounds that we can do. I might be able to change the type of bucket it is, but I'd have to do that on the database level, but that would give you access because it's a certain type of bucket and how it was created that it's not making it available in the MarcEdit function.
Is that just with the regular OCLC subscription, or is that also with the Cat Express?
It's also with Cat Express. Basically,
a lot of our folks then.
Okay. Have they been using that to add the 999?
No, I mean by a lot of our folks, a lot of the folks in Sage.
Okay. Maybe I'm not explaining what the issue is clearly enough. Have they been creating buckets off of an import file?
I don't know.
Okay.
But I was just wondering if this is overall an issue. Apparently it's not. So go ahead.
Okay. Basically, bringing in a batch of records from OCLC, either Cat Express or through the regular catalog, the regular OCLC subscription. Once you import those records, there's an option over on the left-hand side to copy the records to a bucket. We'd have to get into cataloging Marchback, and actually look at, we can do that as part of the session that we have next week to show you what we're talking about. But so it creates the bucket just fine. And you can access those records in the bucket. What we were trying to do additionally was take all of those records in the bucket and use the Mark Batch Edit function, which is a function that not very many people know how to use or have used. But that allows you to make a batch change over a group of records. So it's different than the MarcEdit screen. This is the Mark Batch Edit. Does that make sense?
Thanks, Beth.
It's possible that a lot of people weren't using that last function, even if they were importing records from outside. From OCLC, just because it is a question of like, we use it mostly for adding the 999 to all of the records instead of having to enter it for each one that you import individually. So it's possible that a lot of catalogers aren't using that last bit. But for those who are, be aware that that's not going to work for the moment.
Yeah, and it's because it associates creating a bucket from that import process. It labels it as a certain kind of bucket, and it doesn't allow the Mark Batch Edit program. The Mark Batch Edit program doesn't see those types of buckets, so it's mainly just an access issue where it doesn't bring the bucket you want up into the list to be able to change them. And so I've added what they call heat to the bug, which means, we're letting them know that the Sage library system is affected by this bug as well. So hopefully the more libraries that do that, the higher it's going to go up in the queue for the developers to code the change that needs to happen. So I'm working on a workaround for that. So because it is a productivity issue, when you're used to being able to Mark Batch Edit and add a 999 to maybe 15 records at one time rather than going into them individually, it makes a difference. So that's an issue I'm looking at least finding a workaround until the developers get the coding fixed.
There's another issue. I haven't had a chance to look at this yet. I don't know if anyone has encountered it. It was one of my colleagues that mentioned this, that when you do a search for an item and then you click on a particular item and it brings you to that screen, then you can't get back to the search results.
Let's try that. So anything?
Right.
So if I go here, well, it doesn't really matter. I'll just go here. And then this is problematic here, possibly. Let's see.
Well, let's see if that works. Okay, so maybe she was clicking on something else. She was saying that when it would give the option to go back, like she could see that there was something.
Was she going back in her browser like this? Well, no, that seemed to work too.
Yeah, huh. I don't know. I'll have to ask her more specifically because she said that like she could see where there was an option to go back to search results, but every time she would try and click on it, it wouldn't do anything. So I'll clarify with her what she was talking about with that. But good. It looks like it does work.
Okay, I'm glad that works. I am puzzled because I just noticed that the icons on your screen, John, are not the custom icons.
Right, and wasn't there a notice about that when we upgraded that those were customizations that you were going to have to?
Yeah, but I changed them.
Oh.
Can you go out to the public view of the catalog? I guess I'm trying to think, why are people having different...
perhaps seeing different displays.
Yeah.
Well, and so I did see that it changed for the staff client, that they did get updated sometime last week.
But the web client not so? That's just weird. Okay.
Not sure why my OPAC is A, taking a while, and B, blinking at me. Okay. Yeah, I have the same icons here.
Huh. I know.
Have you cleared your cache recently?
I am scared to clear my cache. Will that erase stuff that I need? Do we know?
I don't know. I recently read about something with a bug in the workstation thing with clearing cache, so I don't know. I understand why you're nervous about it, John.
Yeah.
At the very... it depends on how many settings.
Well, yeah, which settings are done. There was something about a cookie related to workstation settings. I'm trying to find where
I
it
think
said
if you clear cache, that's fine. If you clear cookies, you may have to re-register your workstation.
Right, I think that's what it was. Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay, so, all right. Well, that would be good to. Is that on your blog post?
Oh, that's a good point. I don't know whether I had gotten to that level, but I will check.
Okay.
Because I wanted to do it kind of in multiple posts and not overwhelm folks with.
Sure.
But I thought I had put something in there about configuring pop-ups, and I don't know whether the clearing cache was a part of that or not. I guess I'm just, because I'm going to maybe see different things with these icons than you folks see. I want to make sure everybody's getting the changes that are being made. And so I might have to just send something out to the listserv. And
So here's something that you sent out.
yeah.
Is this different, or is this the same thing?
No, that's the same thing.
Local storage, do not clear local storage. That's not the same thing as clearing cache, though. Browsing data cookies. Okay, so as a part of that, later on we'll see more information about what we should clear, what we shouldn't clear, and in the meantime, we can talk individually about what we can do about my machine to get it where it needs to be. But
Yes.
Well, and the other thing. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say there's an add-on application called Hatch that I was going to start talking about. And if you do elect to use the Hatch add-on to the browser, it will store the workstation settings in Hatch rather than so it's not so browser dependent, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. And it does protect us and insulate us from losing some settings. So there's some advantages to using that, and so that's another thing that we're going to be talking about in the next week or so. Bringing people up, just go ahead.
So I saw that there were also some bugs with Hatch, and that even though it resolves some of those issues, like with printers and those stored local settings, that it can cause problems with some of the basic functionality. Like I can't remember what it was, but
we couldn't get it to log in. We enabled it, and we couldn't log in our workstation. It just shut down the whole client. So
that would be a major problem.
That was the extent of our use with it, but it could be a local thing and not a consortium-wide thing. I don't know, but
yeah, and it's something that we're not having to use at this point, but I wanted to at least explore it as an alternative. But if you were having problems, that's something we'll have to investigate.
Has anyone had any problems? So I was actually just trying to download the new, the updated, since the old version of the staff client doesn't work at all, and you have to upload the newer staff client. Mm-hmm. I actually wasn't able to do that on my home computer. I was able to do it on my work computer, but there's a different system. You had sent us information about setting it up on Linux, and then I tried to upload it to my Windows computer, and it didn't work. It said that it doesn't, it's not compatible or something. Has anyone else had problems with that?
Did you use the Windows link on the website? Yeah. Okay.
I was able to use it and have not had any problems, and I have not heard anything from any of my libraries either.
Okay. Because I had it, I think it uploaded to my computer, but then when I tried to log in, it gave me another, error message. Okay.
Yeah, I remember that there were some folks that had problems, but they ended up resolving themselves, and it had to do more with virus protection type blocks that were not allowing them to run the executable. So I think for the most part, the regular download of this Windows Staff Client has been fine.
We haven't had any issues with it here that I know of. And I don't know about other folks.
Anna, that's something that John and I can work with you on, though, if you want to get some more help with downloading it on your computer at home.
Okay, great, thanks.
All right. Well, we're about 10 minutes ahead of schedule here. I'm not sure if anybody else has anything else they'd like to add to the discussion today. Like I said, these training resources will be in the minutes, and of course the recording will be posted sometime in the next day or two. For those who aren't, well, obviously not you guys, but those who weren't able to make the meeting. And our next meeting is going to be the first Monday in February. I know there are holidays in February. That's not a holiday, is it? I don't think so. I think that's the following Monday. But if anybody, does anybody have anything?
The 4th.
The 4th of February?
Yes. Probably
the day after Super Bowl would be my guess. Which is not useful information for anyone, but that's okay. If anybody else doesn't have anything else, then we'll go ahead and get out 10 minutes early today, if that's all right with everyone. I know how hard you all work. I appreciate your time taking an hour out of your busy cataloging day to get these updates. They're quite important. And stay tuned because we should be having series documentation in the next few weeks. That'll be a pretty major thing, as well as the upcoming read-along training on Thursday. Other than that, I'll go ahead and move to adjourn, and we will see you all in February. Thanks, everybody.
John.
Thank you, John.
Thanks. Have a good day.